Hello everybody, this is Graeme Anderson, and today I'm going to be looking at Vina. Now in this game you take the roles of grape pickers, fighting to inherit the magnificent vineyard. Players are going to be using the grape pickers to collect different types of grapes and try and sell them to local wineries to collect prestige points. And the player at the end of the game with the most prestige points will inherit the vineyard and win the game. Now this game uses a mechanism of allowing the player to move their grape picker as far as they want down the aisle of grapes, but the grape picker who's in the back of the line always goes next. So if you jump all the way to the furthest spot to get that really good juicy grape card, your opponents may be able to get a better combination of lesser cards as they take their turns while you wait for them to catch up. Now this is a mechanism I always found intriguing. So how does this game play? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and I'll come back for my final thoughts on Vina. So here's Vina set up for 3 players. The board is set up for the proper player count, and in this instance there are 4 aisle spaces for the 3 players. Each aisle space has 2 spots for a meeple, and only 2 meeples can be in an aisle space at any time. Then take the grape cards, which show different variety of grapes of different quality as shown in the banner across the top of the card. You're going to place 2 cards on each side of the aisle space, making sure not to reveal the bottom of the bottom card. Each player will then take a grape picker card and the matching meeple. The randomly chosen first player will place their meeple at the back of the line in the entrance. Then, in clockwise order, the other meeples will be placed in front so that the last player's meeple is closest to the entrance. Each player will then get their starting baskets, a 2 basket which can hold 2 grape cards and one that will hold 3 grape cards. The other starting baskets, marked with a leaf, are returned to the box. Players are also given barrel counters based on player count. So, for 3 players, each player has 6 barrels which represent the total deliveries a player can make during the game. Finally, each player will get prestige counters equal to their starting position. So 1 prestige for the first player, 2 prestige for the second player, etc. A wild grape counter is placed at the exit, along with a wine cooperative card which is in every game. And then deal out winery cards based on the player count with a maximum of 2 requesting the same grape varieties. And finally make a bank of the basket cards and tool counters based on the player count, and then all the prestige counters. Now the game is played over a number of rounds until one player has made their last delivery, that is, they've used their last barrel counter. The round will finish, then the player with the most prestige will win. Whoever has the grape picker furthest from the exit will take their turn, and they will move the grape picker as far forward as they want to an empty aisle space, and each aisle space has room for 2 grape pickers. Before or after they move the grape picker, they can take one of the top cards from either side of the aisle space they are at. The player can then choose to discard the card or add it to one of their baskets as long as the basket is not full. You can mix varieties in the same basket, but you cannot switch grapes around between baskets, unless you empty the one basket completely into another basket, as long as that new basket does not exceed the capacity. When you make deliveries, which I'll talk about in a bit, you will deliver all the contents of 1 basket per delivery. If there is ever a tool, and there are any tools left in the bank, you will take it and add it to your grape picker card. Each player can have a maximum of 2 tools, and if you take a third, you'll have to return one. And I'll talk about the tool tokens at the end of the walkthrough. When a grape picker reaches the exit, if they were first, they will take the wildcard grape token. Then the grape picker can make up to 2 deliveries to the wineries. Now would be a good time to have a look at the winery cards. Each winery will show you either a single grape, like this, or a mix of grapes, which look like this. They'll also show you the minimum grape value that must be delivered. For example, you have to deliver a minimum grape value of 7 to this card, but they can only be Pinot Noir grapes. But with this winery, they will take a mix as long as the total value of the grapes is 13 or above, and at least half of the grape value comes from Chardonnay grape cards. If you want to make a delivery, you'll have to take all the grapes from one of your baskets, and only one basket, and discard them, assuming you've met the requirements of the winery, and place one of your barrel tokens on the spaces on the winery card and receive the number of victory points indicated. It will either be a fixed value of victory points, or it might be a multiplier that you will multiply the total grape value you are delivering and take that many prestige counters. If the player covers the last available spot on the winery card, they will receive any prestige points from the card, which are going to be placed there during the end of each round. The cooperative is a special winery, and it will take any combination of grapes in any variety and quality, and it offers a flat 0.5 multiplier. The final thing a player can do at the exit is upgrade one or more of their baskets. The player can trade an empty basket into the bank and essentially out of the game, and take one of the upgraded baskets, either a 3 or 4 space basket. Now these are limited, and a player can only ever have a maximum of 2 baskets. The player will return the prestige points equal to the difference in cost between the basket they are getting rid of and the basket they wish to buy, and the costs are shown in the bottom right hand corner. So to go from a starting 2 space basket, which has a value of 5, to the large 4 space basket would cost a total of 7 prestige points. Once that's all done, the player will then place the grape picker back at the entrance in the order they came out. So the first grape picker to exit will be furthest from the entrance and then will go first next round. Once all the grape pickers have exited the aisle, the round ends. You'll then refill the aisle spaces, so if there's 1 card left, you're going to place a new card on top of it. If empty, draw 2, and as during the setup, you do not reveal the bottom of the bottom card. Add 1 prestige seal to each winery that has at least 1 empty delivery slot, except for the cooperative. Then place 1 wildcard grape at the exit. When a player makes their last delivery by placing their last barrel, the round ends. Each other player gets to finish the round until all grape pickers have exited the vineyard. Then each player will count up their prestige seals, and the player with the most points is the winner. Now before we go back, I just want to mention the different tokens, the tools and the wildcard grapes. Now the wildcard grapes can be added to any delivery to increase the total value by 1 for each wildcard grape token. So if you're trying to get a 13 plus Chardonnay mix, and you had a value of 6 Chardonnay and a value of 6 in other grapes, the wildcard grape can be added to the Chardonnay to make 13 with 7 value from Chardonnay. The tools are a one-time use special actions. The bill hook allows you to take any card from the space your grape picker is in, not just the top card. The shears allows you to take 2 cards from the space your grape picker is in, following the same picking rules as normal. You do not have to keep the cards, and they can be discarded as normal. The boots allow you to take a card that is behind your grape picker, that is, in an aisle space that is closer to the entrance. You still have to move your grape picker, but you can pick a card behind your grape picker. And the tools can be combined. So the boots plus shears can be used to take 2 cards from an aisle space behind your grape picker. The boots and the bill hook can be used to take any card behind your grape picker, whether it's on top of the pile or not. And the bill hook and shears can be used to take 2 cards from a space they are in, and the first one does not have to be on top. Once the tools have been used, they are returned to the bank. So that's how you play La Vina. So let's get back to see what I thought. So what did I think of La Vina? First, let's talk about theme and components. For the theme, honestly, it was kind of weird. I didn't feel the mechanisms were overly thematic, but the combinations of the components and the mechanisms just worked out for the theme. You're sending your grape pickers out to pick grapes that the wineries want, but I kind of ended up thinking of my baskets more as crates that were being shipped out to the wineries, which made a little more sense to me. But the action of picking the grape cards by only selecting the top card, maybe not so much for mechanisms-wise. Now the components for the game are nice and simple, but effective. The cards are easy to read and of decent quality. I like that the prestige markers each look different for each denomination, but the feel of the game just reminds me of a warm summer's evening. From the box, even to the inside of the box, the components just gave me that feeling. Everything is good quality, so there's no complaints there. So, what about the gameplay? Again, if you approach this game as an easygoing, not overly complex game, you'll find it does that quite well. Again, think of sitting back in your chair, sipping a glass of wine, and just enjoying yourself. Really, that's the emotion, and that's what this game really is. Now, the last few De Vere games I have played have tended to be a bit more introductory or simpler games. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you just want a game you can kind of pull off the shelf and play with just about anyone. The rules are nice and simple for the card picking. Move your grape picker as far as you want, and during your turn, take 1 card, either before or after you move wherever your grape picker is. You see what the wineries want, so you need to be making sure that the grapes that you pick can be delivered. But it's simple enough to understand, and it's kind of like a set collection idea. Now the only slightly more complex thing I came across for new players is the tools. The tools by themselves are not overly complex, but the fact that you can kind of use 2 tools together to have like a super special action was a little more complex. But the good thing is when you understand what the single tools do, the combinations just kind of make sense. Now in other De Vere games recently, they've had kind of nice simple mechanisms, but then threw in some overly complex thing into the game. So the complex thing kind of appealed to the hardcore gamer, but the base game was lacking. Or if you wanted a lighter game, the base was there, but then you had this kind of weird complex aspect for it. Luckily for this game, De Vere has avoided that. Now the game lasts 30 to 40 minutes, and it's something you can easily enjoy in between games on a larger game day, or even between courses at a dinner party. As long as you're not looking for a deep, complex game about winemaking, then this one just might fit the bill. There is some player interaction, as it's important to be watching what the other players are collecting. And the strategic discarding of cards that you may not need, but other players do, is an important aspect of the game. Now, there is no direct confrontation. It's more of a, "Aw, man, you took the Chardonnay card I was going for." No big deal. Now, the randomness of the setup and the wineries, combined with the random cards that you draw each round, do make some clutchy moments in the later game, where there's only a few spots left in the wineries and the grapes on the top of the piles are really not usable. You almost either have to have saved your tools or just spend a round discarding cards so the spaces can be refilled at the end of the round, hoping that the right cards come up. Now, that has not happened to me a lot, but it has happened in a game or two. But you know what, the rounds were quick enough and people were clearing out the cards so that the next round it was more usable. Now, I do like that there's a co-op winery in the game, as often I was trying to outmaneuver my opponents to get that last delivery for a winery. But if they were able to get it, I still had a place to drop off my grapes to get some points, as the co-op winery always seems to be the last one with open spots. You don't get as many points as some other wineries, but you know what? In the later game, when you've just lost out on a winery, it could be an option. I also thought that the choices were a good level. Nothing too difficult. How far do you move your grape picker? Which card do you take and which card are you leaving for other players? Or when your grape picker exits, do you buy a new, larger basket? Now, you have to give up victory points, and the larger baskets are limited based on the number of players. They're nice, simple choices that will not cause anyone analysis paralysis. Now, I should mention that I thought this game at 2 players was actually very enjoyable, as each person is controlling 2 grape pickers. But it's the grape picker at the back who always goes next, and that kind of makes the game interesting even at 2. So, would I recommend this game? I would. If you're looking for an intro or lighter game that is easy to get into, this actually could be your game. But of course, if you're looking for a more in-depth game about winemaking, and there are a few, this is probably not the game for you. But that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.